Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for taking the time to join us today for our webinar on potentially serious incidents and beyond, building a culture of prevention. This event is brought to you by the Ministry of Jobs, Economy, Trade, and Immigration. And we have two of our excellent surveillance staff, our epidemiologists, here with us today. We have Luinda Knowles and Stephanie Idu, who are on our surveillance team. And I'll give a little introduction for them, and then I'll do a bit of housekeeping. So first, Luinda is our OHS surveillance team lead. As the lead of Alberta's OHS surveillance team, she spearheads the development and execution of the Occupational Health and Safety Surveillance Program that strengthens workplace health and safety across the province. She also oversees the collection, analysis, and reporting of data on occupational potentially serious incidents, PSIs, which is what our webinar is about today. The work of the OHS surveillance program supports evidence-based priority setting and drives collaboration with key stakeholders to inform policies, programs, and initiatives aimed at preventing workplace harm and promoting safer, healthier work environments. Stephanie is the analyst within the OHS surveillance team, where she transforms complex health and safety data into actionable insights. While her work focuses on the day-to-day operations of the PSI surveillance program, she can also be found analyzing trends in occupational PSIs, injuries, illnesses, exposures, and fatalities. Stephanie's work contributes to shaping legislation, guiding compliance, and informing outreach efforts, ensuring Alberta's workplaces are not only compliant, but also safe, fair, and resilient. So thank you both for joining me for today's webinar. Before we dive into the bulk of the presentation, I just want to explain a couple housekeeping pieces. So we have a chat and a Q&A feature. So at the top of your screen or the side, depending on the setup, you'll see the link for Q&A, and that's where we'd like you to post any questions that you might have. Our team will address these during the question and answer portion at the end of the session. The chat, you can pop any concerns into, but there will be some poll questions and links shared, and so it's most effective if you put your questions into the question and answer tab. We acknowledge that what we call Alberta is the traditional and ancestral territory of many peoples presently subject to Treaties 6, 7, and 8, namely the Blackfoot Confederacy, Kainai, Piikani, and Siksika, the Cree, Dene, Saulteaux, Nakota Sioux, Stoney Nakoda, and the Tsuut'ina Nation, and the Métis people of Alberta. This includes the Métis settlements and the 6 regions of the Métis Nation of Alberta within the historical Northwest Métis homeland. We acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit who have lived in and cared for these lands for generations. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today, and those who have gone before us. We make this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those whose territory we reside on, play on, or are visiting. We are also going to be running a few poll questions throughout the webinar, so we'll get started with our first 2 polls that will pop up on the screen. Your responses will be anonymous. We just like to get a general sense of our audience to make sure that our content is most effective for you and for future webinars. So the first question is, where did you hear about the webinar? We've listed some options, and there's also other, so if none of these options work, please put that into the chat. This helps us to improve our communication to reach more viewers in future webinars. And then the second poll question that I'm going to launch up is, what is your role in relation to the information that we're presenting here today? I'll just give a couple seconds for you to put your information in. So thanks everybody for sharing. Now, final piece before I hand it over to our presenters, this is our copyright notice and disclaimer. So in the event of any discrepancy between the information presented in this webinar and our Alberta OHS legislation, the legislation is considered correct. With that, I will pass it on to our presenters, and I hope everybody enjoys the webinar.
Thank you, Catherine, for the introduction. All right, so this is the rest. Stephanie, I will move forward. Stephanie, question for you. When you hear the word surveillance, what comes to mind?
Cameras, spying on people. Big Brother is watching.
Oh, totally understandable. But in OHS, surveillance isn't about spying, it's about understanding. It means using information to protect workers, improve systems, and prevent harm. Think of it as a cycle, an iterative process. It starts with a question or concern and moves to identifying or collecting data to provide more insight. This information is analyzed and interpreted, and shared in various products such as tables, graphs, infographics. The surveillance information are disseminated in many ways, such as reports, newsletters. The consumers of these products move their new insight into action, and the impact of these new actions can be assessed through evaluation, which may identify the need for more surveillance information. And then this loops us back to the beginning of the surveillance cycle with a new question or concern.
So, Lorinda, who does OHS surveillance in Alberta?
Well, surveillance is a team effort. Whether you work in the field or at a desk, every observation, report, or piece of data that you collect strengthens the surveillance system. And here are some of the key players in their roles. Strong surveillance turns data into early warning before workers are harmed or workplace incidents occur. Real world sources like Workmen's Compensation Board claims, OHS compliance, and potentially serious incidents provide context to what is happening on Alberta's work sites and with our workers. Strong data connections enhances the Alberta OHS surveillance program. The OHS surveillance team are data detectives that like to explore data and transform it into information for planning, implementing, and evaluation of regional health safety practices and programs.
So, when did the Alberta OHS surveillance program start?
Well, the OHS surveillance program was established in 2019 by a ministerial order under Section 56 of the OHS Act. The program is to monitor trends in occupational diseases, injuries, exposures, fatalities, and incidents. We are the only jurisdiction in Canada to have this type of surveillance program under legislation. So a more specific surveillance program within our team is the Potentially Serious Incident Surveillance Program, or we call PSIs. That's what PSIs means, Potentially Serious Incidents. It was also established under a ministerial order.
This then brings us to the question, what is a PSI?
Well, PSIs fall under Section 33, Sub 5 of the OHS Act. A PSI is defined as an incident that had the likelihood of causing serious injury or illness. And when considering the likelihood, we would focus on a high likelihood. No injury or illness needs to have happened for an incident to be a PSI. Near misses or near hits can be PSIs. There also needs to be reasonable cause to believe that corrective actions may need to be taken to prevent recurrence of the incident. PSIs are also not limited to workers. A PSI can involve people in the general public. A PSI can be an incident that didn't involve a worker, but could have. For example, a client slips on icy stairs. If the workers use the same stairs, a worker could have also slipped on those stairs. So that would be a PSI.
So, if there was a PSI on a work site, who is responsible for investigation and reporting it?
Just like all the other reportable incidents, the prime contractor has the responsibility. If there is no prime contractor, the employer is responsible. Their responsibilities are also outlined in Section 33, Sub 6 of the OHS Act.
Okay, Lorinda, what are these responsibilities then?
Well, the prime contractor, again, if there's no prime contractor, the employer shall carry out an investigation into the circumstances surrounding the injury, illness, incident, or worker exposure. The next responsibility is to prepare a report outlining the circumstances of the injury, illness, incident, or worker exposure. This report also needs to outline any corrective actions, if any, that were undertaken to prevent recurrence of the injury, illness, incident, and once again, worker exposure. The prime contractor, and once again, if there's no prime contractor, the employer, it shall ensure a copy of the report is readily available to provide to an officer on demand. In addition to making the report available, a copy of the report has to be provided to the Joint Health and Safety Committee representative or worker. And which one that is depends on the requirements under Section 13 and 14 of the OHS Act. And a copy of the report is also to be provided to a director. I'm a designated director for PSI reporting under the OHS Act. Sorry. Okay, upon completion of the PSI investigation, the prime contractor or employer submits their investigation report through the OHS Online Incident Reporting Service. These reports come to the OHS Surveillance Program in the OHS Prevention Services branch. We are a branch that to the OHS program delivery where the officers are. So we're a sibling branch to them. OHS program delivery, the compliance area, do not have access to these reports.
Okay, so has the reporting requirements of PSIs changed over the years?
Yes, the PSI definition has gone through some various iterations throughout the year. In June 2018, PSIs became reportable under the OHS Act. The definition in the Act was vague and needed to be defined through policy documents and OHS resources. Initially, the definition focused on the outcome of an incident. In December 2018, after consultation with internal and external stakeholders, a new definition of PSI took place. Once again, through policy. PSIs were defined by the circumstances around the workplace incident, and based on these circumstances, was there a potential for a serious injury or illness? And in December 2021, PSIs were defined within the OHS Act. So from this point forward, details collected from PSI reports are used for information and education purposes. OHS may follow up if there is evidence of a current or ongoing serious health and safety concern. The OHS surveillance program administers and manages all PSI records. OHS officers do not access or review submitted PSI reports. In rare circumstances, the OHS surveillance program may engage with OHS compliance on a PSI. These will be very situation specific and through the engagement of an internal committee. To date, we've had only 2 PSIs escalate to the committee. In one PSI, the outcome was to follow up with the relevant Health and Safety Association. And in the other PSI, the outcome was to gather more information, not to escalate to compliance. Let's get into some practical examples here before we get too far. So in which scenario is a PSI? So scenario A, a worker on a construction site is operating a forklift and accidentally knocks over a stack of wooden planks. The planks fall, but they land several feet away from another worker. The worker immediately stops the forklift and ensures that no one was in the immediate danger zone. The incident was reported, and the worker is reminded to take more careful when maneuvering around materials. And then in scenario B, a worker on the same construction site is operating a forklift and accidentally knocks over a stack of wooden planks. This time the planks fall directly on another worker who is working nearby, causing them to suffer significant injuries. The worker is given first aid and taken to the hospital, where he stays for a few days. The site is temporarily shut down for a safety review and investigation. An investigation takes place into the cause of the incident.
So I'm glad many of you are putting it in the chat, your answers, and it's definitely scenario A. Scenario A is a potentially serious incident because although no one was hurt, the fallen planks could have caused serious injury had they landed on a worker or been in the path of someone walking by. The incident is considered potentially serious because of the risk it posed, even though no injury occurred, and the need for corrective actions to prevent recurrence. Scenario B, however, is a serious incident. In this case, the fallen planks caused the injured worker to be admitted to the hospital, which makes it a serious incident. Immediate medical attention was required, and the situation prompted a safety investigation to prevent future accidents. In both scenarios, the same event, that is, the fallen planks, occurred, but the difference is that in the scenario B, a worker was admitted to the hospital. Undertaking corrective actions such as forklift safety policy review, having designated traffic paths, warning signs, speed limits, proper loading and unloading procedures could have prevented this incident.
Thank you, Stephanie. Let's try another one. All right. Scenario A. A worker is walking in a construction site when a hammer falls on their head from above. The worker sustains no injury and brushes off the incident. The other workers apologize and they talk to each other about using their tool lanyards and being more attentive. Scenario B, the worker is walking in a construction site when a hammer falls on their head from above. The worker is knocked out and falls. He's taken to the emergency department for treatment as he has a concussion and sustained a sore neck. He was released the same afternoon and took 2 days off from work.
So the answer is both. Both scenarios are potentially serious incidents. So, although the worker in scenario A sustained no injury, it could have resulted in a serious injury. Corrective actions do need to be undertaken to prevent future occurrences. For scenario B, although the worker sustained injuries but wasn't admitted at the hospital, it's still a potentially serious incident, as it could have led to hospitalization and even a fatality. Many corrective actions could have prevented the incident from happening. In both scenarios, the same event where the worker was hit on the head by a hammer occurred, and both are potentially serious incidents as no one was hospitalized. Even if the hammer missed the worker, it will still be a PSI. PSIs are not about the outcome, but around the circumstances of the incident and the potential to cause a serious injury or illness. Undertaking corrective actions such as ensuring the use of tool lanyards and tethering systems through training or retraining of workers, use of catch nets, securing of work areas, putting up hazard signs could have prevented this incident.
Thank you, Stephanie, for that. All right, let's do one more before we continue on. All right, scenario A. A worker at an oil field is performing maintenance on a pump jack. While working, they notice a small oil spill near the pump, but it appears to be contained and not spreading. The worker quickly cleans up the spill and inspects the area to ensure that there is no other issues. The spill is reported to the supervisor, and the worker is reminded to follow proper cleanup procedures. And scenario B. A worker at the same oil field is performing maintenance on the same pump jack. During the task, a large oil spill occurs due to a broken valve, which quickly spreads over a large area. The spill is ignited due to nearby running equipment, exposing the worker to smoke inhalation and severe burns while trying to assist in the containment. Emergency protocols are immediately activated, and the worker is evacuated from the site and admitted to the hospital.
So for this example, scenario A is the potentially serious incident. Although the spill was small and contained, the potential for a larger uncontained spill exists. If it were not handled properly, it could have potentially led to environmental harm, fire hazards, exposure to fumes, or other safety concerns. Corrective actions such as spill response protocols were reviewed, with all workers trained and retrained to prevent future occurrences. For scenario B, it is a serious incident. This scenario results in a large uncontrolled spill that presents both environmental and safety risks. It caused injury to the worker, required immediate emergency response, and led to significant disruption in operations. It triggered a more extensive investigation and mitigation efforts. As the injured worker was admitted to the hospital, it is a serious incident. In both scenarios, the difference is the scale and impact of the spill. In scenario B, the spill was larger, uncontained, caused injury and hospitalization of the worker, making it a serious incident. Corrective actions such as regular inspections and maintenance, usage of containment systems such as catch drains and basins, spill response training, use of proper PPE, spill resistance flooring or absorbent mats, following regulations could have prevented the serious incident.
I see we have a lot of people getting that correct answer in the chat.
So, Lorinda, what roles do PSIs have in surveillance then?
Well, there are 4 categories of reportable incidents that fall under Section 33 of the OHS Act. We have serious incidents, mining incidents, excessive radiation incidents, and PSIs. So this is the safety pyramid that many of us are familiar with. For every workplace fatality, there are many more incidents that occur that have less severe outcomes. To understand the scope and severity of workplace incidents, we look to the data. So Workmen's Compensation Board, or WCB, claims data. It captures the first 4 layers, like the top 4 layers of the safety pyramids. We know that WCB data is not a comprehensive picture of all the work that's occurring in Alberta. Of workplace incidents seen in emergency departments, we know that about 40% of the workers plan to file a WCB claim. Not all workers are covered by WCB, and for those employers, we have limited to no data on workplace incidents for them. For serious incidents, it covers the majority of the top 2 layers here on fatalities and serious injuries. There are a few other types of non-injury serious incidents that would be captured lower in the pyramid. Those are like fire, floods, collapses and stuff. And then when we look at how PSIs contributes to understanding what's happening in Alberta, it captures the 4 bottom layers, providing a more holistic view of incidents occurring in Alberta workplaces. Where an incident lands in the pyramid can shift based on any contributing factors to an incident. For example, a 1 meter change in a worker's position can be the difference between a near miss and a fatality.
What if someone wanted to learn more about how we use PSIs in surveillance?
The PSI surveillance program, we have a program guide, and it's published on the Alberta Open Government website. There is also a link from the PSI webpage. These links will be provided at the end of the presentation. This PSI surveillance program guide outlines the entire life cycle of a PSI.
Can you please take us through the process?
Sure, of course I can. Starting with the intake process, when employers or prime contractors report incidents using the online OHS incident reporting service. To use this service, employers will need to set up an alberta.ca account for organizations. The employer needs to designate an administrator to set up this account. We always recommend that you have at least 2 administrators for one account. Administrators can see all the PSIs that have been entered on the account, and they can also add other users. They can also limit what records users can view and access. So typically users can only see their own PSIs entered, that they entered. Administrators can see everything under that account. Stephanie, can you demonstrate how to use this online reporting service to submit a PSI?
I sure can, but at the end of the presentation.
Fair enough. Stephanie, how do you do quality assurance on the PSIs that are submitted?
So we have set up criteria to flag when a PSI record is to be reviewed. The review checks for submission completeness. Under Section 33, Sub 6B, an employer is to prepare an incident report outlining the circumstances of the injury, illness, incident or worker exposure, and the corrective action, if any, undertaken to prevent the recurrence of the injury, illness, incident, or worker exposure. If there's missing or unclear information, we follow up with the employer. Also, when an incident is misreported as a PSI and it's actually a serious or mining incident, we redirect those records to the appropriate OHS program area. Lawinda, when will a PSI be escalated?
As mentioned earlier, PSIs can be escalated to other program areas in situations when there's a current or ongoing serious health and safety concern. It can also happen when an employer is identified as under-reporting.
Oh, and the reporting, can you share with us more about that?
Currently, we have a PSI awareness program implemented to reach out to employers through emails and letters. Employers are identified using a subset of WCB claims data that could be PSI. So you're looking at potentially serious incidents. We link that data to incidents reported to OHS. For those incidents that don't link, we send out an email or a letter. We send out correspondence to about 190 employers each month. Also, OHS officers in the field also identify PSIs that haven't been reported and ensure that prime contractors and employers comply with their OHS reporting requirements. The OHS Contact Center, investigations, mining, and surveillance programs, we all work together to ensure that reportable incidents are correctly classified. Any misreports are directed to the appropriate program areas. And finally, the health and safety associations, they receive member-specific PSI summary reports every 4 months. With the PSI data and other data sources, for example, like Workmen's Compensation Board data, the health and safety associations can connect and identify emerging trends with their members and in their industries. In that sense, they are doing surveillance. Yay. Stephanie, can you share the supports we have for employers?
Yes, we have various resources on the PSI webpage. The Incident Reporting and Investigation Bulletin, a video on how to report and investigate a PSI, and an Excel file containing PSI online form drop-down list. This can assist employers with selection of the correct reporting categories or to align their own OHS management systems with the PSI reporting requirements. If an employer is having challenges submitting online, they can contact the OHS Contact Center. But if they are having challenges with their alberta.ca account, they have to contact the alberta.ca account team. OHS surveillance offers information and presentations tailored to employers, HSAs, industries, and others.
Stephanie, can you share what kind of analytics you perform every month?
Yes, we conduct trend analysis that look at the type of PSIs occurring within prime contractors, employers, industries, and occupations. When a trend is identified, we explore deeper into the data to validate it. For validated trends, we set up a watch list and monitor them over time. Since April 2022, we have identified over 2,400 potential trends. Of these, over 866 have been flagged for further review. That's about 35%. Some of the topics we have monitored include contact with overhead power lines, framers falling, construction materials falling, assault or violence in social or community services, young workers, swimming pools and chlorine exposure, as well as motor vehicle incidents. Lawenda, what do we use PSI information for?
We use it for reporting and sharing information. I'll speak a little bit more of this on the next slide. The OHS surveillance program disseminates information to external stakeholders as well as to internal decision makers. Typically, data are reported at the aggregate level and not specific to any worksite, party, or location. We report and share PSI information through different products. The OHS surveillance program provides health and safety associations with monthly Alberta PSI summary reports. And we also provide quarterly reports based on their membership. We also publish PSI industry sector reports on the Open Government website, and this link will be provided at the end of our presentation. And there is also a link from our PSI webpage to these reports also. We also facilitate information sharing agreements to share PSI data to further surveillance and research in Alberta. We currently share PSI data with Energy Safety Canada through one of these agreements. We also provide PSI presentations to internal and external stakeholders. And we also feature PSI data in the Beyond the Numbers section of the e-news. And it's typically, if you scroll right to the bottom, that's where our section is. Basically, we want everyone doing surveillance, and we want everyone doing it at all levels. So to further support employers to do their own surveillance and to identify their OHS trends, we enhanced our OHS online incident reporting service to allow employers to view and print their own statistical reports that show their own PSI data that they have submitted online. With this feature, employers can access 21 statistical reports based on their PSIs that they've submitted. This includes charts featuring details of the type of incidents, the source of the incidents, information on injured persons, and corrective actions taken. Stephanie will provide a demo of this in a bit, so stay tuned.
So we are going to use a modified workplace incident example from the Occupational Health and Safety Starter Kit. This is a template on incident reporting and investigation. This is from the starter kit that anyone will be able to have access to. So for incident reporting and investigation, here's an example. An incident occurs. A worker was struck by a temporary fence that blew over in a strong wind. The worker suffers injuries, receives first aid on site, and 911 is called. The worker is not admitted to the hospital. This makes this a PSI. The employer learns about the incident. He completes a first aid record. The employer investigates the incident to determine causes. It could be from the environment, in this case, the wind, the material, which is the temporary fence, which was not properly secured, and management, where the temporary fences weren't included in the site inspections. On the third point, the employer plans and implements corrective actions. Bracing or ground anchors are added to ensure temporary fencing is secure, including in strong winds. In the interim, the employer directs workers to avoid working by the fences. Procedures for inspecting temporary fencing are developed and put in place. Last but not the least, the employer creates an investigation report. The employer distributes and retains this report as required by law. So, for our demonstration on how to submit a PSI through our OHS online incident reporting service. This is the landing page of our online incident reporting portal. To submit a PSI, employers need an Alberta.ca account to log in. We recommend a designated administrator to be handling all PSI submissions on behalf of their organization. Before getting started, you'll need to answer the following questions. Did the incident occur within Alberta? Yes. Are you the prime contractor or employer responsible for the reporting of the incident? Yes. Did the incident lead or may lead to a worker being hospitalized or resulted in the death of a worker? No, as this is the definition of a serious incident. Click on Continue. Click on Get Started. This is the home page of our OIR portal. To create a new submission, click on the Create button on your right-hand side. Click on Potentially Serious Incidents and Continue as a confirmation. This brings us to this page, which shows 5 tabs, including the Incident Details, Incident Location tab, Employer Information, Additional Employers, and the Submit tab. Starting from your left to your right, you will select our date and time of the incident. Did the incident happen at a mine or mining site? No. Has an investigation into this incident been completed? Yes, as this is a requirement of a PSI. Were corrective actions taken? Yes. Was a person injured or ill? In this incident, yes. Number of persons injured or could have been seriously injured has to be more than one, as this refers to workers who may or may not have been on site but also part of the organization. In this case, there were 5. Selecting the incident category, since the fence hit a worker, I will select called Contact or Struck with Object Tool Equipment. Selecting the type of incident, the worker was hit by a flying object. Specify more details about the type of incident. The worker was hit by a fence. Select the immediate cause of incident category. The cause was environmental, so you select environmental. Select the immediate cause of the incident. It was by wind, so we look for high wind or gust. Specify more details about the cause of the incident. See, I'll put in weather changes caused by incoming storm. On to the corrective actions taken. In this incident, the hazard was eliminated. We engineered controls and we also provided training as well as change policy. As per OHS Act Section 33, the prime contractor or employer is required to provide their investigation findings. In this case, we can copy and paste our investigation findings over here or attach our investigation findings, whether in PDF or Word document. So I'll copy and paste my investigation findings into here. The next step says to provide your corrective actions taken. So my corrective actions taken, I'll also copy and paste that as well. If there is additional information, for example, pictures or other documents that you would like to attach, you can always click on Attach Document, choose your file and attach it to your investigation report. So I'll click on Save and Continue. That brings me to the incident location page. Put in my incident location, or you can click on Use My Current Location or use the account address attached to your alberta.ca account. Click on Save and Continue. This routes us to the Employer Information tab. Select the relationship to incident. You can also look for your organization in this box where you search for your organization name, or you can type in your organization legal name here. How many employees do you have in Alberta? I have about 500 employees here. Are we WCB exempt? No. You input your WCB account if not exempt. To search for your WCB industry, click on the magnifying glass icon. You can search using the asterisk. In this case, it was a roofing company. So asterisk roof, click on the icon, and it gives you all the options, including the word roof. This is my industry. Click on select, and that populates the tab. Fill in the details for the contact first name, last name, title, phone number, and email. Were other employers involved in this incident? In this case, no. Click on Save and Continue. This brings us to the Injured Person tab. Click on the Add New Injured Person on your right-hand side. Is the injured person a worker on the worksite? Yes. What is the occupation of this person? Click on the icon. Again, in the Search tab, asterisk, look for and the person is an airbrush painter. Click on Select to populate the tab. Click on the approximate age range of the injured person, in this case 20 to 29. Click on Add Injury to add the injury of this worker. The part of body in the category was the head injured. Part of the head was his skull. Injury category, he had a wound, and the injury type was a cut or laceration. Click on Save to save details of the injury. You can also go back into the injury to edit or delete and create a new record. Click on Save and Continue. This brings us back to the Injured Person tab. You can always add new persons. Click on Save and Continue. On this page, we will declare if the information we have within the report is true to the best of our knowledge. And after this incident submission, if there is any reason to believe that the injured person has been or will be hospitalized, we would need to contact the OHS contact center. Click on that, select it, click on Submit, and you have submitted your PSI report. There are other features like clicking on the Home button will bring you to all the PSIs reported on behalf of your organization. Going under the profile, you can see the profile information, organization information, and PSI reports. Under PSI reports, you'll be able to see the PSI overviews, including number of PSIs, number of PSI injured persons, number of PSIs by incident month and year, the types of PSIs that have been reported, the sources of PSIs, PSI injuries, corrective actions taken. This is to help employers in also doing surveillance on their own. Going back to the Home button, we can see our PSI record that has been submitted. Click on the OIR number to see all the information details that have been submitted. You can click on Print to print for your own internal records. And that is the end of our PSI demonstration. Thank you.
So let's talk about surveillance and internal responsibility systems. So once again, everyone has a role in surveillance. So what does surveillance look like in your internal responsibility systems? So data is intelligence. So how are you collecting, analyzing, and exploring your occupational health and safety data? How are you using this data to prevent further workplace incidents? What is your culture to report? Make health and safety a core part of every job role and ensure that everyone is personally and directly responsible for safety as a part of their duties. Do you have reporting systems in place? Do workers know how to report workplace incidents? Are health and safety representative committees or workers in place to investigate incidents and ensure corrective actions are taken? Are reportable incidents being reported to Alberta OHS? And the other part of surveillance is sharing your findings. So how do you use monthly and quarterly PSI reports to identify high-risk areas and allocate resources effectively? If you notice a trend, do you connect with others to help understand more about this issue? It's like, okay, we're seeing this here. Are you seeing something similar? Are other employers in your industry seeing the same thing? OHS surveillance has data at the provincial level. Ask us if we're seeing the same trend with other employers, industries, or occupations. So we sort of rely on you being the eyes in the field to sort of pick up something when maybe something's starting to emerge, and that we're here to help and identify and explore those issues too. So I'm going to leave you with a list of questions to reflect on and explore on within your organization. So some last foods for thought. So what does surveillance look like in your organization? What indicators tell you something might be going wrong? So what are your early detection systems? How do you identify and confirm issues in your workplace? So if you think something's happening, how do you further investigate if something may be actually truly emerging? What does your reporting culture look like? And how do you train staff on reporting and hazard recognition? And finally, what role do your health and safety committee representatives or committee members play in this process? So once again, we want everyone out there doing surveillance. We want everyone being data detectives and looking for emerging things and stopping something else from another incident from happening in the workplace. So here's a whole list of resources that are available that we can send out on that. We are recording this session and we'll be looking to post an edited version once we have time to go through and edit it. But we're looking to post this, so there'll be another reference for you to review again or to share with others. And if you have any concerns, questions, or not sure how to report, the OHS Contact Center is your first point of contact.